Friends of Paganoni Swamp don't actually have to do a lot of restoration work because of the quality of the bush. It's always been a very isolated patch until about 2005. And then we got the railway, Kwinana Freeway, Paganoni Road upgrade. So this is an area that we've actually got to concentrate on, and this is the area that we're going to concentrate on with the salt grant. The area's been, instead of natural regenerations happen, we've had plumeria and annual grasses coming in. So what we're looking at is to grow Garnia trifida and actually plant that. Now it's quite a difficult plant to grow as well, so we've got the challenge of growing that up and then putting it in and seeing how successful we are. So it's all research involved with active management over time.
We're working in an area of the hills not too far from Darlington, Boyer Trail, which is a heritage trail. We started with a very overgrown weedy site which was deteriorating every year. So initially we worked on getting rid of the most invasive weeds. So currently we're working on the second seasonal wetland area on the site. We did a huge amount of weed clearance on one seasonal wetland area. We thought we'd never manage that one. It was really so bad, but that's progressed so well that there's another area further along the site which is where we're hoping to be working on in the next 2-3 years. Yeah, the most noticeable fauna we've seen returning or using the site more probably are the kangaroos. Initially, we did occasionally see kangaroos sort of further up Greenmount Hill, but not down near the creek and the picnic ground. We have made a special point of conserving the native grasses. It's a very, very good area for a whole range of native grasses, and we've done a lot of planting, and now with most of the weed cleared, a lot of the grasses are naturally revegetating, and that brings the kangaroos in.
Right, well the projects we're funded for this year are ongoing projects and have been for a number of years, and that is weed control and dieback, Phytophthora dieback management. Jarrah dieback has really decimated a large number of our large trees and understory. So we're doing revegetation in there, and we're doing spraying and tree injection to manage the dieback front. And I think we are keeping it pretty stationary at the moment. The site, the park, was a source of gravel for roadworks, main roads and City of Armidale over many years, but in the last 30 years that's been curtailed, and we've been revegetating those areas and pulling out weeds. We do weed spraying outside the park and small areas where it's incursion into the park, but the City of Armidale does most of the weed control within the park.
Well, the Friends of Lake Claremont are involved in one of the largest ongoing restoration projects in Perth at the moment. In the past 5 years, we've won a number of grants from the state and federal government to restore the area around Lake Claremont. In the past 6 years, we've helped to plant, or we've planted over 250,000 seedlings. And the SELP grant that we've recently won is helping us to achieve a dream of restoring the wetland buffer.
The Helena River Catchment Group works on the Helena River, which is divided into 3 large areas of catchment. Up in the upper catchment above Mundaring Weir, which is mostly public land. Then there is the middle catchment between Mundaring Weir and the Pumpback Dam. Then below that, from the Pumpback Dam down to Lower Guildford, where the river enters into the Swan. The current project finished in 2014. We had an ecological completion criterion, which most projects tend not to have. They only have monetary completion criterion. The ecological criterion was the return of the red-eared firetail finch, which is a pretty little bird that was last seen on that section of the river in 1995, when there was a major fire. 6 years after we started, it came back and it started to breed.
We have a problem with feral bees invading our nesting boxes and nesting hollows. With the help of Unibel, we applied for a SALP grant to survey the feral bees in a 1 kilometre radius along Bugle Tree Gully catchment area. We identified 49 feral bee hives. The reason we surveyed these hollows was to have the bees removed so that the birds and the animals can come back into those hollows and use them for nesting or sleeping. These would include owls, possums, cockatoos, parrots.
The Friends of Wildhill have had SALP funding a few times. We're very focused on hand weeding in the reserve, mostly to prevent overgrowth and competition, with the native plants that are there. We started hand weeding because we found that the sprays that were being used by the council were actually killing the orchids as well. And there's been a lot of disagreement about this, but there has been a project now done by Kings Park which shows that supposedly grass-specific sprays do actually attack orchids and other plants that are quite like grasses. So that's why we got into the hand weeding.
We've got some very unique people in our group, people with lots of experience. Anne Bellman's one of them. We couldn't do without Anne. She's the stalwart of the group. If ever we need to know a plant, if ever we need to know a weed, we call on Anne. It's just fantastic having her there. It's such an amazing resource. Well, Rosalie is the one into the animals and the bees and that type of thing. So if ever we see something we're not quite sure of, it'll be Rosalie. Well, she's always behind because she's taking photos. We're always waiting for her to catch up because she's always got the camera out taking photos. It's just that feeling of satisfaction when you're out in the bush doing what we think is worthwhile work and having such a pleasurable time about it as well. And the surroundings are just fantastic. So it's a bit like, why would you want to be anywhere else?
Two of the important members of our group were Irene Morecambe and Kim Sarti. Both are founding members of Bungabil Park Management Committee. Kim had a vast library of photographs that he'd taken within the park. All of our publicity, he had done all of our pamphlets. Irene, again a founding member, she was our secretary for 30 odd years. Right? Both of them resigned in July last year, and we had a farewell dinner, and the committee thought their contribution was such that we should make them life members. So now we've got a string to drag them back should we need their assistance.
I guess we've got a lot of characters in our group really. I think the people who tend to hand weed in the bush are by nature eccentric anyway, so we're all a bit crazy. And other people think we're crazy. I mean, people come past and they say, oh, you'll never be finished this job. And obviously, we'll never be finished this job. It's an ongoing job. But the two probably most colourful characters are our newest member, Dalton Moffat, who's our social secretary. He doesn't actually work in the bush and doesn't know what a weed looks like, but he loves to organise our social functions. And our probably longest serving, one of our longest serving members, Helen Redmond, who's worked in the bush now for about at least 20 years. And she is just fanatical about her orchids and marks every one of them with a stick and worries that people will stand on them endlessly. But she's just such great value to that bushland. It's amazing what she's done there.
We have a very interesting animal that lives in the reserve. It's an endangered animal and it's called the brush-tail phascogale. This little animal, when the male reaches 9 months of age, puberty, he runs around mating frantically for 36 hours to any female he can find. Then he has a massive boost of adrenaline and dies. We found one of the bodies and donated it to the WA Museum. Rumour has it they're still trying to wipe the smile off his face.
One of the more humorous incidents that's happened out in the field is we do surveys every quarter and we go back to the same place. And for some reason, this time I decided when we were there, then we do a 20-minute bird walk, I decided not to take the GPS. I have no idea why. I must have had just a mental blank. So I left the GPS back at the site And we wandered off and obviously followed the birds or followed something. And do you think we could find it? I cannot believe we could never get lost because you always head to a road, you always get road noise. But we couldn't find our patch, to the point that I actually had to drive home, open the computer, work out how far it was from the nearest track, drive back and find our patch. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that we could be that silly.
Funny stories? We don't have any funny stories, we're too busy working.
Salt funding makes it possible for us to do the type of projects that we're looking at right now with the revegetation of the upper swamp. It's a unique project, it's something different, and salt's offering us the opportunity to be able to do that in a climate that doesn't offer very much in the way of funding at present.
Yeah, we've received SALT funding over the last 10 years, 10 different lots of SALT funding. I very much doubt the project would have continued without that. On a practical level, it's enabled us to do an awful lot, but I think there's also something of a psychological element to it. You feel that what you're doing is being recognised and supported.
The SALT funding is just so important to us. I can't tell you, we've had grants now for probably 5 years from different sources, from federal and from SALT and NRM. And every time we get to the end of the grant, we worry that we're going to run out of money because the members of our group are all quite old. I'm the youngest. Other people are in their 80s, and it's getting really hard for them to actually do the work they want to do in the bush. But being able to employ people who know what they're doing, who go up there every fortnight and weed and love the bush as much as we do, makes a huge difference.